Sri Lakshmi, TGT Social Studies from Jangamed, part of Material Research and Development team, today here to give my presentation. Let us start today's session with a poem in Hindi for a change. All of you can look at this. It's a flower, right? The poem is about a flower. कविता का शीर्षक है फूल की चाह. The flower is saying to the gardener, चाह नहीं मैं सुरबाला के गहनों में गूंथा जाऊं, चाह नहीं देवों के सिर पर चढ़ूं भाग्य पर इटलाऊं, चाह नहीं सम्राटों के शव पर है हरि डाला जाऊं, चाह नहीं देवों के सिर पर चढ़ूं भाग्य पर इटलाऊं, मुझे तोड़ लेना वनमाली उस पथ में देना तुम फेंक, मातृभूमि पर शीश चढ़ाने जिस पथ जावे वीर अनेक. Most of you might have understood the gist of the poem, but let me explain it for everybody's convenience. The flower is saying to gardener, "Oh gardener, I don't have the desire to be decorated in pretty girls' hairs. I don't want to feel pride that I have been decorated into goddess hair. I don't even want to have the luck of getting decorated on great people's deathbeds. I just request you, O gardener, pluck me and throw me in that path where the soldier is walking ahead to die for the country, to give his life for the country. I want to be crushed under his foot." Interesting, isn't it? That's the fervor of patriotism. We all love our country, we respect our country, we celebrate our national festivals with great pomp and show. Most of you might have even danced for different cultural programs, and you might have also sung songs during your celebrations. Let us today study the story which gave us all this immense joy, that is the national movement, the independence struggle which took place, which makes us all happy now, comfortable now. So earlier how many people struggled, so this is the result of all those people's struggles. Let's today study in depth about our national movement. Please look at the slide. So you can see the map of Bharatavarsha here. There is an interesting debate that many historians say that Bharatvarsha, I mean India got oneness, it's being called as nation only after British people came here, but it's not true. From times immemorial, Indian land was having the name Bharatavarsha, which is in fact larger than the area now it is. You can see in the map, so it's more vast than the present territory, and all this territory was under one rule, single rule of the king Bharata, and from him the nation got its name Bharatavarsha. Here there is one more important point to discuss, the difference between nation and country. Children, it's easy to compare the meanings with house and home. House is mere a construction, but home is the place where people live together. In the same way, country is a geographical territory, but nation is the region where people feel togetherness, oneness, maybe because of some same origin or say similar culture, similar traditions. So reasons may be many. So that's the difference between the nation and a country. So India was a nation and now it is a nation. It's not that only because of Britishers we have got nationalistic feelings, but it has a long history. Let's now discuss how this national movement actually began, roots into the national movement. We have learned already in our earlier class industries that European countries were searching for new sea routes, for new lands. They just wanted to purchase raw material in larger amounts, and they also wanted markets to sell their finished goods. They were continuously searching for new lands, and in the same in the same trail, a person named Vasco da Gama discovered sea route to India. Vasco da Gama. He was a Portuguese sailor. He was from Portugal. And he discovered sea route in the year 1498. Of course, he landed in the next year. The route was, he came down the west coast of Africa, then round the Cape of Good Hope, he crossed the Indian Ocean and he landed on India. Here, it is also interesting to know that English East India Company, the company from England, got a charter signed from Queen Elizabeth because they did not want any competition of markets on Indian land. That's why they got a charter signed by Queen Elizabeth. However, the competition was inevitable because there were many people who came to India, established their East Indian companies. You can look at the slide. English East India Company established itself in 1600, and then came Dutch people. They established 2 years later, and Danish people from Denmark. Dutch means people from Netherlands. Okay, so Danish East India Company was established in 1616 and French East India Company was established in 1664. There was tough competition amongst all these companies for purchasing raw material. So we have already discussed that the cotton that is produced in India is of very high quality, and even spices and many other things were of very high quality, and people wanted such raw material for textile industries. Okay, so these companies were always in struggle, in competition for getting more and more raw material as well as for markets. Gradually, the competition lessened because some of these teams were eliminated, and finally English and French were the people who fought for longer period for trade in India. It is also important to understand, to remember a point, that none of these European companies wanted to have political power. I mean, they never thought of annexing any kingdom or conquering somebody's region. So what they did was all for economy. They just wanted to have trade, they wanted markets and all. But for having markets, for having friendly relations, they tried involving into the local politics also slowly. You can see that here, please look at the slide now. See, there were frequent local wars among these foreign powers, as we discussed now. And Dupleix, a governor from French East India Company, he helped Muzaffar Jung to become the Nawab of Deccan. So why did he do so? He just wanted to have friendship with Muzaffar Jung so that he can have some trade and markets here and there in a Deccan region. And English East India Company defeated Nawab of Arcot in the year 1764. So this Nawab lost battle in spite of having a huge army. So English army was less in quantity, but they were all very well trained, and it's really a surprising thing in history that how this Nawab of Arcot lost his battle. And all these East India companies maintained armies, they had built forts, they always fought with each other, they had frequent battles, but all these were, they had only one thing in their mind, that is economy, that is trade. They just wanted to have trade. But slowly they understood that if they conquer the regions, if they themselves ascend the throne, they can have freer and fuller use of the raw materials available in our country. So the starting point was Battle of Plassey. We all have to remember here this battle, because this is the battle from where English East India Company people started occupying small and large kingdoms. So this battle was fought between English East India Company and the Nawab of Bengal named Siraj-ud-Dawla. Siraj-ud-Dawla lost the battle, and the East India Company established its trade as well as ascended the throne. It went on conquering the nearby lands. There were some kings who did not like this, who struggled, who wanted to send them off from our country, but they could not. The reason, the most important common reason, which is very pathetic, is treachery. The word treachery means betrayal, what we call in common terms cheating. A person from king's army cheats the king, joins the opponent team and leaks the secrets that belong to this king. This was the common point of the reason for the defeat of many kings, and that's the way how this English East India Company could acquire so many kingdoms. When we speak about this loyalty or non-loyalty, I would like to quote about a film character here named Kattappa. Most of you might have seen the movie Bahubali. So this Kattappa is a character created. He's a man of loyalty. Though he has lot of anguish and hatred towards the king Ballala Deva, he was bound to the throne. He never thought of doing any harm to his king. If such Kattappas were everywhere in Indian territories, English would never have got a chance to ascend the thrones or to win these kingdoms. It's a matter of pity, it's a matter of sorrow. So this is the way how East India Company slowly changed its motto from trade to territory. It slowly started occupying different regions, small and big kingdoms as well. So were people happy in the rule of English East India Company? No, people were not at all happy. Let's see why were they not happy. So common people were either peasants or farmers. So most of the common people were farmers. So they had to pay lots of taxes. So they were not happy. And tribal people were also not happy. The reason is English people introduced new forest laws according to which all the forests belonged to East India Company, the government. Not the tribal people who from ages thought that forest is their land, got a shock with these new laws, and they were thrown off from their homes, and that's the way tribal people were totally unhappy about English rule. There is one more point here, that tribal people were made use of begar, we say. So begar means taking work without giving salary. You will be surprised that does it happen so, but it happened in those times. So tribal people were forcibly put into work, they were not given any salary. This extension of railway lines and all, as those people were muscular, they were made to do lot of work without any salary. So tribal people were very, very unhappy. And local rulers, these people were also unhappy because there were new policies like doctrine of lapse. So you must have read in your books about Lord Dalhousie, who implemented a policy called doctrine of lapse. That means if an Indian king dies without heir, that means without any son, then the kingdom would be automatically annexed into the company's rule. It will be joining the company's territory. Many local rulers were really very unhappy about this, and not just this, there was one more dimension, that Hindus and Muslims, who constitute the most population of India, were also not happy because English people looked down at them. They felt as if they are superior to them, their culture is superior to the culture that is of Hindus and Muslims. So those people were also unhappy. All these people were unhappy, and they were feeling like fighting against the British, these English East India Company people, where they were waiting for an opportunity. So the fire was ignited with an event in the year 1857. What happened in the year 1857? There were new rifles introduced, the cartridges of which were greased with animal fat. There was a rumor about that animal fat that it is made from either cow or from pig. Cow is holy for Muslims, and pig is very unholy, cow is holy for Hindus and pig is very unholy for Muslims. So both the Hindu and Muslim Sepoys were against these new rifles. They did not want to use them. They had to remove the cartridges, putting them in their mouth. So they were not ready to do this. So this ignited the minds, and Sepoys turned against they revolted against the English East India Company. So this happened in the place Meerut, but soon it has spread to other places too, because everybody everywhere were unhappy, but they were waiting for some opportunity, some chance, some point. So it began in Meerut, Jhansi, Awadh, Jodhpur were also some of the places where Sepoys rebelled against the English East India Company. And the local rulers who were also waiting for the turn joined them, like Tantia Tope, Jhansi Lakshmi Bai, whomever you might have definitely heard about. This lady, daring lady who fought with British in those days. And one important name here to mention is Turebaz Khan. He is a person from our region, present Hyderabad district. So this man was born in Begum Bazar, present Hyderabad district, and in spite of the Nawab's warning not to join the revolt, he went and joined the revolt. He fought bravely against them. Unfortunately, he was caught and he was hung to death, but people always remember him, and there is a special word, Turum Khan, in Telangana dialect to honor him. The word has become a part and parcel of this language, Turum Khan. So Turebaz Khan, a salute to all those people. And 1857 revolt could not be success, though it spread to various regions, and Sepoys were all together marching towards the forts and attacking them. As you have seen from all these places, they were rebelling against the English East India Company. And most of them joined their hands, marched towards Delhi and declared Bahadur Shah Jafar, the then Mughal emperor, as the emperor of India, because that was the only option they had. So as we all studied, you might have already known that Akbar, during Akbar's reign, the map was somewhat like Bharatavarsha as we saw, though not that much vast, but most of the Indian territory was into one hand, the hand of Akbar. But later rulers were not so strong, and that's why they could not maintain that much territory under one umbrella. There were rebels and petty kingdoms emerged. So once again they wanted that glory, and they declared Bahadur Shah Jafar as the emperor of India. But what happened? English East India Company people suppressed the revolt with iron hand. They treated very cruelly the soldiers. They killed them in inhuman ways and hanged them everywhere, to show the people that if you fight against the British, the English East India Company, the result will be this. People were literally very, very upset. And Bahadur Shah Jafar was also caught. His children were killed in front of him, and he was sent to Rangoon jail, where this last Mughal emperor died. He was died in Rangoon jail. Who? Bahadur Shah Jafar. So this revolt came to an end with this, but English people understood the necessity of having good relations with the people, and after 1857 revolt, the governing body changed. That means the power has changed from the hands of English East India Company to the hands of British government. So after 1857 revolt, people understood that they can come together and fight against the British, but the plan was not so well done. There was no collective effort, and they were having only old weapons to fight with. This was also one of the reasons for their failure. They were fighting with old swords, daggers, spears and all, whereas the English people had guns and cannons with them. So these were the reasons, some of the reasons for the failure. However, there is a debate here, one more interesting point to discuss, that there is a debate whether to call it just the revolt of 1857 or to call it Sepoy Mutiny or to call it First War of Independence. Many historians feel that this revolt was constrained to the northern region, so it cannot be called as First War of Independence. And only the Sepoy community participated very actively, of course with the local rulers. So the British wanted to decrease its morale, decrease its value, and so they called it Sepoy Mutiny. Finally, it was decided that this cannot be called as First War of Independence, as it was not totally widespread, but in one dimension it was. So after 1857 revolt, the British government, as I told you just now, it understood the necessity of being quiet and friendly with the people. So it targeted the elite Indians, educated people. It provided different facilities for them and to conciliate them and to get continuous support from them, from educated Indians. So we can see here Dada Bhai Nauroji. Dada Bhai Nauroji, he established an association called East India Association in London. He established East India Association in London in the year 1866. There were number of people, educated Indians, who joined him, like M.G. Ranade, K.C. Telang, G. Subramanian Iyer, Surendranath Banerjee, and many more. So these people used to discuss the questions that existed in India regarding the governing bodies and all. They, after coming to India, they have organized many meetings in their respective towns, their respective cities, like Mumbai, Calcutta. So then name was Bombay. So Calcutta, now Calcutta, Pune, now Pune. So in all these cities they have organized meetings. It is very interesting to observe that though they made the goals that were made by these people were called as the goals of the country, not of that particular state or that particular community or that particular region. So the nationalistic zeal was emerging from them, from these leaders. Soon they got a good dash to come together when Evo Hume started an organization called Indian National Congress, so which is famously known as INC. So the Congress party that we see here even today has its origin so long. So in the year 1885, Evo Hume established Indian National Congress, and most of the educated people who were interested in discussing the civic issues, political issues, joined this association. So the first you can see here on the slide the picture of Evo Hume and Dada Bhai Nauroji. Indian National Congress spread so fast, it got popular so fast that within 1 year there were around 436 delegates that joined the association. So for the first 20 years, the leaders who belonged to Indian National Congress were called moderates. The first 20 years leaders were called moderates. Why were they called so? Because of their policies. The main principle of moderates was pray and petition. So at times they made protests also. So the moderates' policies were pray and petition. They believed in British that they are committed to give freedom, they are democratic, they give priority to justice. So in this way they believed in British, and what they wanted is the demand, the greater voice for Indians in administration, that is in government. Gradually in the year 1903, Swadeshi movement was started to give economic impetus to the nation. That means people started recognizing the importance of buying the Swadeshi goods. As we were discussing, they came for markets and the markets were flooded with western cloth. So gradually, after this nationalistic feelings emerged, people understood the importance of being together, having this nationalistic zeal and helping the nation's economy by buying. It's a matter of self-reliance. So it's a matter of buying their own goods. So Swadeshi movement was started in the year 1903. After 20 years, there was change in the ideas of Indian National Congress leaders as there was change in the administration of the British. The main reason being the announcement of 1905, that is partition of Bengal by Lord Curzon. They announced that they are doing this for administrative convenience, but they were having something else in their mind, divide and rule policy. They wanted to divide the Bengal population into two to break the unity amongst them and to reduce the impact of this Swadeshi movement. So moderates were still believing somehow in the British, but some people told that now it's done, we cannot believe anymore, we need to adopt some serious methods to fight against them, to make them understand about the importance of independence, Swaraj. So there was a split in the year 1907 in Congress session, as you can see on the slide here, moderates versus extremists. So the important leaders among moderates were Dadabhai Naoroji, Surendranath Banerjee, Badruddin Tyabji and Firoz Shah Mehta. From extremists we have here Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Bipin Chandra Pal and Aurobindo Ghosh. So the first three people, they are often called extremist trio. The word trio, as you all know, triangle stands for the closed figure of three lines in mathematics. So the word trio means three people. So the extremist trio were who? Lal, Bal and Pal. Easy to remember, right? Lal, Bal and Pal. Lal, Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Pal, Bipin Chandra Pal. So these people were important leaders from extremists. What were the policies of extremists? So they, as I told you just now, they were shocked at the partition of Bengal that took place in the year, that was announced in the year 1905. And this Bal Gangadhar Tilak, he gave a famous slogan called Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. So the methods employed were boycotts. Everywhere foreign cloth was boycotted and it was put to bonfire, and liquor shops and foreign cloth shops were picketed, and Swadeshi movement was given impetus. How? Let us see. The most important industries, as we have discussed in the lesson industries also, were textile industries and iron and steel industry, right? So in addition to that, we have two important industries established here, one by P.C. Ray and another by Jamshedji Tata. The industry established by P.C. Ray, Prafulla Chandra Ray, was Bengal Chemicals and Pharmaceuticals in Bengal region, and Jamshedji Tata established TISCO. About this we have already learnt in our lesson industries, Tata Iron and Steel Company. So these industries really helped a lot, gave a great boom to Swadeshi movement. And there was Vande Mataram slogan everywhere, echoing everywhere, and this Vande Mataram casted magic on every Indian's heart, and people were on the roads. They were putting foreign cloth to fire, and they were participating with great zeal. The split was subsided. That means extremists and moderates joined their hands together after this Home Rule movement was started in the year 1917. Meanwhile, what happened with the British? There was World War I from the year 1914 to 1919. As you all know, Germany, Austria and Hungary on one side, and Britain, France and Russia and many other countries on other side. They were fighting, and this war was fought for long 4 years. To meet the war needs, British people were going on increasing taxes, and even the demand for cloth, the demand for iron and steel were also more. But this gave a hope for Indians. They were expecting that there will be some constitutional constitutional amendments, arrangements, and there will be some democratic rule that will be awarded to them after this First World War, but their expectations were never, they never became true. Instead, there were harsher laws. As you can see here, these are some of the laws passed by the British. Let's go little back to the dates to understand how discrimination was done. First one being Government of India Act 1858. As we were discussing, after 1857 revolt, the management, the governing authority was shifted from the hands of English East India Company to the hands of British government. Second being Criminal Tribes Act. As we were discussing about the problems of tribal people, I told you about Begar. So they British people decided that certain communities from tribal people have criminal mentality, the criminal attitude they have, which is really very unfortunate. And the third one being organizing Darbar in 1877. There was great famine in India in those years. People were not getting food grains, and these people organized Darbar with great pomp and show. This really pinched Indians. And in the year 1878, there were two acts passed. One is Vernacular Press Act and another is Arms Act. Vernacular Press Act means the act which arrests the people from publishing something against the British government. Vernacular means local. So press actually acts as media between the government and the people. It explains the people about the policies of the government, and it conveys the feelings of the people, opinions of the people to the government. But here the press was made inactive. They were not given freedom to publish whatever is happening with the government. And Arms Act is another act which, according to which, no Indian is allowed to carry an arm. That means English people can carry, but Indians cannot. And the next one, another controversy is Libert Bill. This was passed in the 1883. According to this bill, no Indian judge could try a European. This is again clear discrimination. And Partition of Bengal, as we have discussed, it happened in 1905. And Rowlatt Act is another act which was passed in the year 1919, which Rowlatt Act was passed in the year 1919, about which we will discuss in the next slide. So before that, let us have a look at the slide once again, which is about arrival of Gandhi. So until 1914, until the world war started, the national movement was led by moderates and extremists. In the year 1915, Mahatma Gandhi entered the scene, and the pace of the movement has changed a lot. For 1 year, until 1916, he toured all the country foot by foot, and he tried to understand the needs of the people. In the year 1917, he led the Champaran Satyagraha, Champaran campaign. In the year 1917, he stood for the farmers there who were forced to cultivate indigo, a cash crop instead of food crop. And in the next year, he led the strike announced by Ahmedabad mill workers in the year 1918. And the most important is again the Rowlatt Act, which we were discussing now. He led Satyagraha against Rowlatt Act in the year 99, which was passed in the year 99. There were peaceful demonstrations against this act, and 6th April was announced as Day of Humiliation and Prayer, and 13th April they held a large meeting, a large gathering in Jallianwala Bagh, where General O'Dwyer ordered sudden firing on the people, on the peaceful demonstrators, which is really very pathetic. Around 400 people died and thousands got injured in that tragedy. Rabindranath Tagore renounced his knighthood. Knighthood means they used to give a title sir, so he renounced it to express his anger and sadness. So with this, Gandhiji stepped into another severe movement, that is non-cooperation movement. There are three important reasons for this non-cooperation movement. One is Khilafat movement, Khilafat agitation we can call, and another is Punjab issue, that means here Jallianwala Bagh, which we spoke until now, and the third one is getting Swaraj. So what is Khilafat issue? Turkey of Sultan is called Khalifa by Muslims. He is regarded as the religious head. Turkey Sultan, that means Sultan of Turkey. So he was called as Khalifa. He was called as Khalifa, the religious head of Muslims. After World War I, this Turkey Sultan was removed from the throne. He was dethroned, which was really upset for many of the Muslims, and they want him to be honored. Though there was no powers given, they just wanted to look him as an honored person, not the way the British were treating him. So this was the issue of Khilafat agitation. All the Muslims agitated against the British for this particular issue. And the second one is Jallianwala Bagh tragedy, which we discussed just now, and the third one is Swaraj. They aimed at gaining Swaraj now. Until now they were asking for some amendments in the government running and some places, but gradually they understood that they need Swaraj. Swaraj should be their motto. So they started boycotting foreign goods, and khadi was propagated very seriously. So khadi is the material hand spun, as you can see here. This is a khadi cloth which is a bit rough in texture, which is hand woven. So as we say mutaka we say in Telugu local language. So this khadi spinning was taken as a serious initiation by most of the people, and it was a symbol of self-reliance and patriotism. People started rotating charkas and making their own cloth. Then non-cooperation movement also included many things. Many people surrendered their titles, and many lawyers gave up their practices, and every person was attracted towards the khadi movement. That was part of this. As I told you, they were running charkas and making cloth on their own. And non-cooperation movement was in a great boom. People still say that if that movement continued, we would have got freedom by then. But unfortunately, an incident called Chauri Chaura incident made Mahatma Gandhi withdraw this movement. This movement was withdrawn in the year 1922. The reason being Chauri Chaura incident. What happened in Chauri Chaura? People set fire to a police station in which around 22 policemen died. And this is the reason which made Mahatma Gandhi withdraw this non-cooperation movement. This was announced as withdrawn. So here on the other side, British government was trying to appease the people. What did it do? It passed another act by name Montague-Chelmsford Reforms, Government of India Act 1919. So with this act had some bright areas also, like participation in administration was done more, and Public Service Commission was established in India for the first time, and elections were conducted for the first time. It was known to the people. So these were some brighter areas, but it extended communal representation. So the intention was not of ruling them. The communalism was encouraged indirectly with this particular act. So it extended consolidated and communal representation. And finally, Montague-Chelmsford reforms had another important feature of getting it reviewed for every 10 years. So after 10 years of its implementation, there was a commission, a statutory commission was set up, which is called Simon Commission, which visited India to see how this government is working. Simon Commission was greeted with black flags. As people were very upset with this, because the Simon Commission did not have any Indian. There were 7 people from British Parliament and no Indian in the commission. So this made people very unhappy. They gave slogans like Simon, go back, and they greeted them with black flags. In these demonstrations, Lala Lajpati Rai, whom we were discussing under extremist trio, he was beaten so badly by a police officer that he died after a fortnight. Bhagat Singh and his team, who were very upset with this, killed that police officer, and of course they were caught and hung to death. But we remember Bhagat Singh and his team, Sukhdev, Rajguru and all, for their great gesture of having great fervor of patriotism. After this Simon Commission and all these proceedings, there was another strong movement started by Mahatma Gandhi, announced in the year 1930, that is civil disobedience movement. As non-cooperation movement was withdrawn, but there was no change in the attitude of the British. The discrimination was same. The Indians were not treated well. They were not given autonomy. And also he announced civil disobedience movement in the year 1930. So according to this, just before this, in the same year, on 26 January, in Indian National Congress session, Purna Swaraj resolution was passed. So many of you might have noticed that the Constitution Day, the adoption of Constitution is on Republic Day, but it was completed in the month of November itself. Then why did we wait until January? Because we wanted this date to be celebrated. So in Indian National Congress session in the year 1930, on 26 January, Purna Swaraj resolution was passed. Gandhiji said, from this particular point, from this day, everybody is free. You behave in such a way that you are in your own kingdom. This land belongs to us now. So in this way, the next important movement under this was Salt Satyagraha, Dandi March as it is famous. So they started from Sabarmati Ashram by walk, nearly 240 miles. They travelled, around 60,000 people. They travelled all through the coastal region, breaking salt laws and preparing salt everywhere in the coastal region. So this movement also included many good things, like people started coming together. So they also started thinking about social issues like abolition of untouchability. As they were coming together, the nationalistic zeal was improving among the people, and the parda system which was there for women, this also got reduced. People were becoming idealistic in their thoughts. So even most of the liquor shops were picketed, and again this foreign cloth was put to bona fide. All these things happened. Press became very active. It started giving all the advancements of the Salt Satyagraha to the people of the country, and people started leaving colleges, schools that are run by the government, and many lawyers gave up their practice. All these things were seen in civil disobedience movement. So British had to respond to this when this was happening in such a large scale. So what did they do? They passed one more act of Provincial Act of Government in the year 1935. According to this act, they gave autonomy to provinces. They declared that elections will be conducted in which many people can participate now, and Indian National Congress participated and won nearly 7 seats out of 11. But things were not going on well. In the year 1913, Second World War started. When the Second World War started, Britain again asked for the help. They asked us for the help. So Congress leaders said that they do not have any objection to help, but they want democracy. The British people should leave them, for which the British did not accept. So to show their opposition, all these Congress ministers resigned. And then started the most important movement, to say that the last movement, that is Quit India movement in the year 1942. So as we have just, we could make out how serious civil disobedience movement was. So this was more serious than that. They were planning for so many things, but what happened on 8th August, as Quit India movement was announced, they arrested all the leaders. All the leaders were arrested and put behind the bars, and people went everywhere. They started destroying all public property like railway lines, telegraph lines, and all these things. There was so great havoc all around the country. Number of people, number of Congress leaders were arrested and put behind bars. In other area, there was something else happening. Let's see what it is. That is about Indian National Army. Okay, you immediately remember the name of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. I understand, the great person who gave a quote, "Give me blood, I'll give you freedom." You might have heard this slogan in some fancy dress competition, right? So here, this Indian National Army was actually formed by Captain Mohan Singh in the year 1942, and the army was led by Rash Bihari Bose. He handed over the army. Netaji revived this army, and he trained them to fight against the British under this World War II. They fought bravely for 3 years. At one point, it was appearing as if Allied powers will win, but unfortunately, they got defeated, and this army also got defeated by the British. But for his bravery, we remember Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose forever. It is believed that he died in a plane crash, but some people doubt. So coming to the event of partition, its roots, let us see how and why it happened. In the year 1906, Muslim League was established to represent the interests of the Muslims, but when in the year 1937 provincial legislatures elections were conducted, Muslims they got a doubt that they always might have to play second fiddle in democratic structure. So they were very much feared. Sometimes they were having doubt in their mind. Sometimes they may have to go unrepresented. So they started viewing Muslims as separate nation from ours, and the disturbances grew in the year 1937 and ahead. And finally, when Cripps mission visited India to give some structure, so the statement given by the Cripps mission was, India should remain and constitute itself a loose confederation with some autonomy for Muslim majority areas. But Muslim League did not accept for this. So they demanded for separate nation, and finally we got independence along with the pain of partition. So for this, Muslim League even indulged in mass agitations on 16th August 1946. They call it a direct action day. It is remembered in the history as that, and these differences were continuously growing. They were unresolved. So Lord Mountbatten wanted these disputes be discussed and resolved, but that did not happen, and finally India had to divide into India and Pakistan. So Lord Mountbatten plan, which gives us freedom, also divided us into two nations, India and Pakistan. So joy of independence with the pain of partition is really very unfortunate to see. So this was the story of national movement. So as so many leaders sacrificed their lives, and finally we got independence along with this pain of partition. Even after independence, the differences were not resolved. There were a lot of disturbances in both India and Pakistan. In the name of religion, there were many massacres taking place. People were killed, and women were treated very brutally. So all these things happened for a certain period, and gradually things settled after 1.5 years. So finally, after 1947, we had a challenge in front of us, and we also had an opportunity of being modern, self-dependent and equitable nation. So we took the challenge, and we could make a lot of development. As we can see now, India is now leading in many things, and most of the people from our country are in very good positions, working for great organizations in different countries. Though it pinches a bit that brain drain is happening, but still it speaks about the talent of our people. So what can we do? What should we learn from this national movement? What is our takeaway? So, as we are independent now, we need not go to borders again, and we need not participate in any war, we need not risk our life, but what we need to do, we need to do something what that is in our arena. What can we do? We can take good care of our surroundings, we can throw the things in proper places in bins. This is not a small matter. Why ma'am is speaking about dustbins and throwing things in that? It's really a matter of decency and respect. When we speak of other countries, we say they are good, they are neat, well maintained, then why don't we? So, if we make it a habit, it's possible. At least the next generation should take this thing very seriously, and we should respect each other, we should not have any sort of discrimination in our minds, we should try to be always healthy and active, we should see dreams and try to make them true. We should all have high desires, and we also need to put consistent efforts to make our dreams true. And I wish all our students, all the students for that matter, come out with flying colors. And finally, I would conclude the session with the quote of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Dream is not something that you see in the sleep, but dream is something that does not allow you to sleep. So, of course, you are all children, sleep well, dream well, but never forget that you need to realize your dreams. You need to work in the direction of making your dreams true. It's time for you to take the project now. Project work. Collect or draw the pictures of your favorite national leaders and make an album. Collect or draw the pictures of your favorite national leaders and make an album. Second one is prepare a timeline chart of all the major events that led to the independence in India. Prepare a timeline chart of all the major events that led to the independence in India. Dear kids, I am sorry that I forgot to show a map here. I brought it for you all, a colorful one. So these three maps speak of the spread of British rule. So earlier this was the region, pink region, which was under British, and gradually you can see the region increasing, and before 1857 you can see most of the present Indian territory was under the British rule except 4 to 5 kingdoms. Sorry that I forgot, but I just wanted to share it with you as it was colorful. And I finally thank Telangana Tribal Welfare Residential Education Institutions and Telangana Social Welfare Residential Education Institutions societies, our beloved secretary Dr. R. S. Praveen Kumar Garu, who gave this opportunity of being with students in this corona crisis. I thank TSAT people for their patient recording and telecasting. I thank all the viewers, dear students, for being with me. Thank you all.